Welcome. I'm your host, Susan Grau. Join me for an extraordinary journey that surpasses the boundaries of the unknown. I offer insights into this life, the afterlife, near-death experiences, and healing for the soul. You'll receive answers to the questions about where your loved ones are in spirit, and a clearer understanding of where we go when we leave this consciousness. The truth of life and the afterlife will be revealed. Join me right here, right now on Infinite Life, Infinite Wisdom. Welcome to Infinite Life, Infinite Wisdom, where we talk all things afterlife. I'm your host, Susan Grau. I am a writer, a speaker, an intuitive medium, and a healer, among other modalities. This is going to be a really special podcast because I'm going to take you to the most sacred space that I can take you to, which is, of course, the 5 most incredible readings of all time for me. So we're going to go to that space. And I had to actually write some of it out just to start it out because there's so many in my head. Some of these I had to sit down and actually go back in time and ask Spirit to give me information again because I forget so much of my readings that I had to actually ask Spirit, can you fill these gaps for me to do my recall, which was really crazy. But over the years, I have done thousands and thousands of readings. Each one I brought Spirit through and something bridged the gap of pain. Some of them are so extraordinary that you can't forget them, not, all about it. I forget a lot of the details, but they're life-changing. So we're going to take a deep dive. So there's 5 readings that I want to share with you that deepened my feelings about the afterlife. And I have so much gratitude for that. And I find out that the spirit world is such compassionate, intelligent, intentional than I ever could have imagined because of these readings. I've changed a lot of the details. I just want to say that because number 1, I don't remember every detail. And number 2, because I want the autonomy, but the true essence is in the miracles, right? Miracle remains. So I want to say that. So a young mom came to me and her little boy had passed suddenly. And Spirit showed me a small blue shoe, the kind that light up when a child runs. And I described this blue shoe to this person and she burst into tears. Those were the shoes that her son wore the day she passed. They were also the shoes she put on his little memorial teddy bear. Now, I didn't forget that part because she told me that. And that's why I remember the blue shoes. But I can remember it was as though her whole world shifted because of that beautiful confirmation. I don't know what other word to use, confirmation. On her phone, she showed me this teddy bear at the very end. That's the other reason why I remember. But the reading, Spirit found the simplest way in the biggest of things and the smallest of things. But what I remember the most about this mother is she came in doubting. And I was struggling because she had so much doubt. And I remember thinking, I don't know how I'm going to get through this with her and get her to see that her baby is still with her. And the corner of my office room got very, very cloudy and it kind of lit up. And I felt this presence of childlike, but innocence, but intelligence that was in my room. And I walked over to where I saw this beautiful energy and I put my hand in it. And she could see swirls going around and around and around above my fingers. And it was like smoke, but it wasn't. It was like a dense fog. So phenomenal. And then he came and talked about these shoes. Now, again, I remember this reading for one reason. It's because she told me about the teddy bear. And so that's always stayed with me. But this little boy was able to tell his mommy that he was safe. He was with his papa, which is what he called his papa, and that he had no fears and that he was there with her, loving her, available to her. And he talked about going on a vacation that they went on after he crossed, like 2 years after he crossed. And he told me all about the vacation. Now, I don't remember the details, but I do remember the power of that vacation and that they had brought him with them, meaning his ashes. And he's talking about this. He's telling the story of the vacation. And everywhere they went on the vacation, they dropped his ashes. And he had that experience with them. And he was talking about they caught a fish. And when they caught the fish, they dropped a couple ashes. And they went on a hike. And when they went on the hike, they dropped a couple ashes. And he's telling this story. And I know there's so much more to it, guys, but imagine that. Knowing that your baby was there with you when you went on your beautiful trip or vacation, feeling the loss, feeling the pain, but taking them with you in some form. Spirits always tell me they want to go with them. And they want to be invited. That's one thing I want to say. If you don't invite them, they're not going to go. But he went on and on about this beautiful vacation. And then he started talking about the fact that they had a birthday party for him. And that at the birthday party, they put as many balloons as he was, which I don't remember that detail, up into the air. And they all sang happy birthday to the sky. And he heard them. He heard them. Now, that's like one of the most powerful readings when they can tell you what you're doing now and what you've done for them. And so I was really thrilled that that reading got across to her. And when she left, she said to me, I never need any more help from a medium or anyone else because I know my baby's with me and I'll just talk right to him. And I gave her some tips on how to do so, and out she went. Now, another one that was extremely recent was a woman came in and she brought her friend, and the reading was for the woman, not her friend. And this is so recent that I remember it. I remember for between 3 days to a week. That's kind of how it is for me. And then I forget everything except for little bits of details. And this woman came in and I was reading one, and then the other one had a friend come through, and I'm telling her all about her friend. And when it was over, she said to me, why did my husband not come through? And I was shocked. And I said, well, it's not your reading, and that's probably why he didn't come through. But let's see if we can't bring some information in. So I spent the next 10 minutes, my break time, bringing her information. And it was, basic information. It was nothing like intensive. And I think the spirit thought she was going to stay for 45 minutes or something, which I didn't have that time. I had another client. And so I said, it's time to stop. And I hope you felt him a little bit. And she said, yeah, I did a little bit, but it was kind of general. It wasn't really intensive information. And she walks out the door and she's walking towards the elevator. And I hear him screaming at me, go back and say, Elvis, please catch her, and say, Elvis, 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 and say it like 10 times. So I run out the door and I head towards the elevator. And I said, wait, do you understand Elvis, Elvis, Elvis? And I said it 10 times. And she was blown away. She started crying and she ran back to me. And she had on a long sleeve sweatshirt. She pulled it all the way up and there was the crown. And she said, this is for the king. And she said, we always called him the king because he loved Elvis. And every Halloween, which by the way, was right before Halloween, which was a couple of weeks ago, not even, she said every Halloween, he would dress as Elvis. And he would walk around saying, I'm Elvis, I'm Elvis. And he'd sing the Elvis songs. And she said, now I know he's here. That to me was mind blowing. I couldn't believe it. It was just unreal that came to me out of the blue. So that's another beautiful reading that I received. A man came for his wife and a dog burst into my vision. And it was a particular type of dog, very joyful. It just exploded in front of me. And she said, tell him I brought Buddy. And so I said, she wants you to know she brought Buddy. And when I said the name Buddy, he gasped so loud, it startled us both. And it was like, oh, what? And I went, what? I mean, I felt how he felt. And Buddy had died a couple weeks before she did. And she had prayed every night that he would hear her say Buddy so that he would know that they were together. And he knew. And I felt really beautifully peaceful to be able to give him just that little bit of information. There was a lot more to the reading, but that bit of information changed everything. And she went on to talk about their relationship with Buddy and how Buddy was their only child, their fur baby, and that Buddy was, the one that they were most worried about, and that Buddy transitioned and that they were both on the side of the veil together. That's just amazing to me that she was able to do that. And so there was another one. This reading changed my understanding of the afterlife's identity, and I had to write it down. I saw a woman twirling in a flowing yellow dress, and the client stared at me like she couldn't breathe. And her sister had worn a yellow dress to her funeral. It was her way of saying, don't mourn me, celebrate me. Don't mourn me, celebrate me. And she had seen her sister wear the yellow dress to the funeral. And then the spirit showed me her sister's soul in a classroom teaching other spirits how to help their loved ones send signs. So the sitter was able to show me that. And the spirit world said, we learn here too. And that moment cracked me open into a new understanding that after we leave this planet, it's infinite learning, guys. It's hence infinite life, infinite lessons. We learn to grow. We learn purpose. We don't go stagnant because we cross over to the other side. But I think people believe that we do. But it was extremely profound because it was so defined. And what an amazing story. I had another one where a mother came to me, and again, I'm going to change this just a little bit because this was very recent. She came to me letting me know that there was a person that she had lost. And I won't forget this one because it was so visual for me. I saw a car accident and he was being blamed. And there were 5 people in the car. And I saw the car light on fire. And she was worried that her child had suffered and felt the fire. And I didn't know that at the time. I just simply said, he wants you to know that he didn't suffer. He was knocked out. Even though his lungs had smoke in them, he was not present. He did not feel the fire. And he's safe and he's secure in his grandpa's arms. And by the way, his aunt's there too. And his friends, I started naming the friends that were in the car that all passed away also. And they were all together and none of them suffered. And it was life-changing for her and for me. But the big part of it that I remember is that there was a person in the trunk. How did they get there? And who was it? And I was able to tell her what happened in the accident, how he ended up in the trunk, and that it was her son that was in the trunk. And so she knew where his ashes were. And that for me was altering, life altering for me. that I was able to give her such clarity and such important information about what happened to her child. Another one that was really powerful, I was in a reading. I was doing a reading, a group reading, and I was telling this man all about his father, and I had his name and I had some dates and name of the loved ones were going back and forth. And I realized that he wasn't going to believe me no matter what I did. He wasn't going to believe me. So I made the decision to go to the next person. And he's standing up and he's waiting. And I'm saying, okay, well, I've given you all I can and I need to move on because I've been on this for 10 minutes. And I went to walk away and I heard his grandfather on the other side scream out, talk about the coins with the dates in his pocket. Talk about the coins with the dates in his pocket. And I remember turning to him and saying, you understand that you have coins in your pockets with the dates of your loved ones that have crossed. And he turned pale white and started crying. And he said, you could not know that. There is no way you could know that. I now believe they're really with me. I believe. I'm sure of it. I have no doubt. And it changed his life. So he brought someone to me about a year later, and I didn't know it was him, but then he told me the story, and that's why I remember it. But can you imagine what that would feel like? Mediums have this beautiful way of healing others with their information and their love. Another really powerful reading, which I feel will always stay with me also, was a mommy whose child passed at birth, and she was suffering horribly. And she was very frightened that more children that she had would leave the same way because there was something that her body was doing that wasn't making it easy for her to bring through spirits. And this little, beautiful little baby started telling me what would happen with each of her pregnancies. And she didn't believe it, but he gave details. I mean, detail after detail after detail after detail. And ultimately, she got pregnant with 3 more babies, and every single thing that was said, each one, it happened. So the first one, she wrote me and said, oh my God, this happened. I felt safe because my other baby that crossed told me they'd be safe even though this was happening, and it happened. And then the next one, she called me and said the same thing. And then the third one, she called me and said the same thing. And I was blown away by that this spirit could give her this information to bring her peace. Because by the time she got to the second one, she realized this is right information. And it's all happening just the way she said, and not the way I said, but the way he said that I'm from the other side. And she got to feel peace and relax into her pregnancies and enjoy her babies. Extremely powerful experience. And I'm going to give one more that I feel was the most significant reading that I've ever given. So I had a mother come to me and her child was murdered. And he got in the wrong place at the wrong time. And he was a good young man who wanted to make a little money and made a bad decision with a person who isn't someone you want to make money with. And he had turned his back and walked away from this person, and they shot him and he died. And the mother wanted him to be arrested, but there was no weapon. And her son from the other side told me where the weapon was. And she gave the detectives the information, and they refused to go where the weapon was because it was in the water. But what he told me was, regardless of whether they find the weapon or not, he will be arrested and he will serve a long, long time for murder, even though the weapon may not be found, but this is where it is. So he got arrested and he served time for murder. And someone ended up finding the weapon in this water. So when he tried to get it overturned, guess what was there? A weapon. And so it didn't get overturned. I mean, that to me was unbelievable. Then it goes a step further. The mother felt like someone was watching her in her house, and she thought it was a neighbor. So she came to me and asked me, can my son tell me who is watching me in the shower in my house? I know they're there. I feel them at the window, but I never can catch them. And her son gave me a description of the vehicle and the person and a first name. And she knew who it was. And it was someone who lived a couple blocks over. And her son told me that he was taking pictures of her in the shower and that she needed to call the police and give this information that the evidence would be found in his home, in his phone camera. So she waited a while because she thought, can't be. I mean, this person doesn't even, like, how? And she kept trying to catch them. Well, finally, she did call the police and they went over there and they saw some things that allowed them to go get a warrant. They got a warrant. They ended up getting into the phone somehow. I don't know how they did that. And there were the pictures. And I think it was a phone. It could have been just a camera. But either way, there were the pictures. And she was able to have him arrested as a peeping Tom. And he's not doing that to anybody else anymore, I'll tell you that. So that was another really profound reading that helped this mother in two different ways. I do forensic mediumship and I help find missing people. And it's the hardest thing I do. If I were to say that anything was difficult in a reading, that's it right there, because the information is very skewed. And I don't know why, because the spirit has passed, it's a lot easier. But when the spirit hasn't passed, it's very, very difficult. But we do our best to get all the information we can. And I had a situation where there was a woman who had been taken and she had been buried, not alive. And she was trying to show me where she was. And as she was looking up, I kept seeing cactus and just one cactus sitting next to her. And then as she would show me upward and out, I'd see cacti everywhere. And I didn't understand why I was seeing it because it wasn't enough information. But then she started showing me roads and names of roads. Now, this doesn't happen every time, guys. This was really, really, really rare to get this much information. But I started to see the roads that she had crossed over and where she was. And I kept saying, I'm only a few inches down. And so she wasn't too far down into this grave. And I gave all the information I could to the family. And I kept saying, northwest or east, west, I'll just say it that way. I don't want to give too much information here. But they finally found her. And the family got to have closure. And that to me was everything. But I've had bad situations too, where I've done forensics, where a mother would call me and I would give her information, like your child is they're on this street in this place. The police won't even go down that street. They're in the basement. I don't think they're being kept there. I think they're using drugs there. But they're not in the safe place. It is dangerous. And then I see them getting on a train and going to this place and that place, and then they will be found. And the mother kept calling me, and I do this for free. And so one day I get a call from the father, and he's screaming at me, telling me I'm making his wife crazy, telling her this fake information, and I'm just causing pain and never to talk to her again. If she calls, hang up. And so I did that. Found out about a month later that in actuality, he had been in that house. He had used drugs. He was very heavily into the drugs. He had taken a train to a location, and they had found him at that location. And fortunately, they had sent him away to get healing for drug addiction. So the information was accurate, but I ended up being a monster in the eyes of this man, which was really painfully difficult. So that was something that I try not to do too much of anymore when it comes to kids. So why don't all people get found? And here's the answer. Not all of them want their families to find them because they don't want them to find them and what happened to them. They don't want them to be tortured. They'd rather they think they're out there in the world. They know what their families can handle. And that's the best they have to give. So that's why I don't always get every single drop of information. So when I recognize that, I don't have to try to figure it out. I just have to give what I get. Anyway, so that's my top 5 stories. And I think I added a couple more into them. Most of my really powerful stories, I don't remember every detail. So I could give you the ones that I can remember because they've been brought to my attention again and again. I will tell you this. I wrote in my book about a mother who lost her child. She fell out a window and she came to me recently again. And I gave her information, but it just didn't seem quite as powerful as I would have liked it to be. But before she walked out the door, I had this compulsion to say roses and little baby bees. And I said, roses and little baby bees. Do you understand roses and little baby bees? That was different stuff, but you get the point. And she turned around and looked at me and the tears started flowing and her jaw dropped. And she said, all I asked her to say was roses and little baby bees if she was really here. And why did she wait till the last minute? And I said, she didn't. I just didn't hear it till the last minute. And this mother got to leave with some peace in her home. So know that going to a medium can be extremely healing. And if you're with the right medium, an honest medium, a real medium, you can too be healed. Does it take the grief away? Absolutely not. Does it lessen it a little bit? Maybe for a little. And that needs to be enough right now, right? So thank you for listening to some of my stories. I'm so glad you've been spending this time with me. I look forward to speaking to you again, and I'll be talking about energy and how to cultivate the energy in the room so that you can feel your loved ones. Take care of you. I loved our shared time together during this extraordinary soul journey on infinite life, infinite wisdom. Until next time, may the infinite wisdom we've uncovered guide you on your own unique path. Please don't forget to hit the follow button so you don't miss any new episodes. My book, Infinite Life, Infinite Lessons, is available now. Wishing you healing and love until we meet again. This is Susan Grau. Remember, they are only a heartbeat away. Take care of you.